Marco, it's an honor to have you on my show.
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Before we dive into deeper conversations, let's start with the beginning. How did your interest spark into architecture?
I was very, very young, and I remember that I've been invited by my father to visit the site, and the site was the first skyscraper in Milano. You know that in Milano we don't have so many. And I met the architect, designer of that building, that was Joe Ponte. And I remember I was very little, and I was looking to this guy, you know, with the black glasses, and he was explaining the project, and I was very impressed about that. And I was at the top of the building during the construction, so I was really attracted by what he was saying to me, and I was thinking at that time I would like to be an architect, but that was just the beginning. Then, you know, after many years, I decided to go for architecture at the end of my upper school. I was in between being a doctor or an architect.
Okay.
So I decided for architect.
And then how did the idea of Studio Marco Piva come up?
That was very, very soon, because it was funny and at the same time worrying, because when I went to the first lesson, when, you know, all the young people all together, you know, the first year, and there was a teacher. The teacher was Rosselli, a very, very good architect. He said, "How many are you here today? You know, how many?" And I said, "Well, around 1,000 people." Okay, look around you, and you must be aware that only the 4% of you will be a professional architect. No?
4%.
4%. Everybody was scared, you know, for only 4%. You know? And then he said, okay, because architecture, you know, allows you to do many different, you know, things. And but you know, I wanted to be really an architect. And at the third year, together with a couple of friends on my course, we decided to start our own office, design office, and the name was Dada, D-A-D-A.
Dada.
Design architecture, you know, and that was referred to Dadaism. You know?
Okay.
I was very, very interested about Dadaism because they were free thinking, you know, a little bit crazy. And so we started the third year. We started designing objects, you know, interior. Yeah. And it was quite successful. So as soon as I got my degree, I started to do it really professionally. And at that time, to be very honest, was not easy to do architecture project, you know, because in Italy at that time, construction work was very much linked to, how can I say, political, you know, areas.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go for that, you know, so we started from product design, interior design, and then later on we came to architecture. And this is something that I believe happened to many friends of mine or colleagues of mine, you know, that time. So the Italian architecture, modern architecture, is different because it's full of details and attention that they come from this approach that is more about the objects, about relation with something that is small, detailed, and then grows to interior and then to architecture.
It's very interesting that your story is very relatable to me. Just that the difference is you discovered your interest on top of a skyscraper, and I was watching it on a television. Like I used to watch a television series where they would cover the construction process of skyscrapers or mega buildings. And I got very impressed looking at those things, as I want to be there. I want to experience how these things are made. When I draw something on paper and it comes into reality, what is the experience? That pulled me into this profession.
Yeah.
So which year was it when you started the Studio Marco Piva?
Well, that was a long time ago. Do I have to tell you? Really? That was a long time ago. So the first design office, official, because obviously I needed to get my degree, was 77.
Wow.
That was Studio Dada, the name was Studio Dada. And then we succeeded to develop, you know, products and so on. We have been linked to, at that time was starting the approach of what we call it, sort of more not functional design only, but also emotional design, And at that time we had all the radical approach, to design. So I belong to that kind of starting vision where function should be there, but it's not the only thing that you have to take care of. You have to take care also of emotional part of the product in terms of design and obviously in terms of interior. Very difficult to apply. It was very difficult to apply it to architecture because at that time architecture was quite, functional, serious, and so on, But the interesting point that was that because many of us they were not somehow allowed, they didn't have easy access to real architecture design, real buildings. A lot of us started to design. So the design of architecture, that seems to be stupid, but only the design, developed a lot, So there were magnificent kind of, projects, design that just remain on paper, But that gave us the starting to approach architecture in a different way, as I said before, So we tried to move away from what was very rational, very essential, so we tried to move in another direction. For instance, for me, one of the best architects at that time was Alvar Aalto was coming from rational architecture, but started moving things to different use of material. He was starting also using, because of his Finnish, nationality, use the wood, So I was very interested in that. And then later on, but not so much later, I was very attracted by Frank Gehry. Frank Gehry had, to me was very attractive because he changed suddenly, from something that was boring and so on, and then he changed to something new. When I was at university, just to stop this, about this subject, the dean was Paolo Portoghesi.
Okay.
So Paolo Portoghesi was the one who succeeded to bring postmodernism into the general attention of art and so on. And he was a super teacher. And what I liked from him, and this is something that is inside me, that I don't want to start anything without doing a research about the reason why to create a new building, or a new object, why to do this exercise, if you can add something more, A chair is a chair,
Yes.
When somebody comes to you to say, design a chair for me, this seems to be the most stupid thing, it's the most complicated one, Like, as you know, designing a tower today, From which, reason you start to doing that, So very interesting in linking the project to a culture, to a place, to a history, this is really very important for me.
So once you started your practice in 77, when was your first break when, you established the name of Marco Piva and people started knowing what actually the studio is doing and how is it making a difference?
But the difference, I'm really, to be very honest, I was not really attracted to be a sort of, that was a mistake, I discovered later. I was not so attracted to be a prima donna, You know what I mean? To make show off and so on. So I was more involved in doing things, And as you say, so just a few minutes ago, I was with somebody that is now taking care of the amount of drawings and pictures and pieces of art that I did, during the time. But at the beginning, I was attracted by saying something about architecture, and I was very attracted to keep continuity between small scale, like an object, up to city, let's say, dimension.
Okay.
And when I got my degree, I was very interested in urban planning, because for us, even today, for all of us, today is how we can imagine the proper city of the future. Now we have the same problem maybe different dimension, but we have same problem in Milan, in Mumbai, in Delhi, in whatever you in New York. Yeah. So the point for me was how to keep this line, how to jump from one scale to another, try to keeping a certain kind of continuity in way you're thinking, approaching the design, approaching the different stages and so on. Yeah? And then you know that there was a very famous sentence from an architect, was Nathan Roger, that was from the spoon to the city. That means that it's a little bit pretentious, you know, but should be somehow perceived, this kind of attitude, you know. And that was a typical of a Milano Polytechnic approach, you know. And because you know, at that time we didn't have any design school, any interior design school. It was just one degree, you know, a lot of examinations. So, and that is something that I believe it is really a winning point even today.
You've been in this industry for a very long time, and you've seen the industry go through different paradigm shifts. Like there was a time when everything used to be done manually on paper, physical models, and now cut to 2025, we are almost entering the world of artificial intelligence. We are working in BIM. So how do you think the architectural design has evolved over all these years? What changed between these 50 years?
Well, I think that I cannot start without a sketch on the paper. This is my approach, you know.
Yeah.
And I believe that should be the right approach, because there is a direct, immediately direct, you know, command from your brain to your hand, you know. And this is something that I cannot miss, and obviously before, because of my age, you know, we are using technical acquisition and technigraph for that, you know, the way to design, you know,
drafting,
typical. I don't remember the name now in English, and so we are using, you know, the pen, you know, the ink and so on. So the relation between you and the design was really direct, you know. Even if you have collaborators, but you are really in contact with the paper even, you know. The lady that was before here interviewing me, she is taking care of drawings, you know.
Okay.
She said drawings are not valued as they should be, you know, because even the big masterpieces, they started from drawing.
Yes.
And so that was a physical approach to design. Obviously today we have a lot of you know, systems and programs and machines and whatever, you know, that could help us. But I believe that I've been also creative in that, even if I'm not able myself to do some of these, you know, but I wanted to create a condition to tell the story about the design in the best possible way. So now presenting a project is telling a story to a client, and the story should not be just the drawing with the right proportion, you know. You need to create the reason, as I said before, you know, for that project. So if we succeed to tell what is before, I believe that the client will appreciate more and will enter more into what you want to do, you know. And to do this, obviously you have to organize, you need the computer, the machine, the program and so on. Yeah. But at the same time, you are not losing anything. So even if you use now AI, you know, but you have to guide the AI. AI cannot guide you, you know. It could give you some answer, but you have to put a proper question before, you know.
Yes.
So if you put proper question, you can get proper answer. You have to work on the answer in the way that they should get your target, you know, your final target, you know. So I think it's going to be a super help, but we needed to guide and not to be guided. Yeah. But there is a lot of opportunities in this. You know. For instance, can you imagine to double the city, and so you can have a virtual city and the real city, and you can work on the virtual to check that what you are implementing there could work, in relation with the space, in relation with the season, in relation with the shade, in relation with the people living around. You are bringing a certain number of people there, the traffic. So this is super helping instrument, to design, to work on that.
You have the experience of working with architects back in 80s, 90s, 2000s, where there was a transition in architecture. And now you have the experience of working with young architects like me, who are more proficient in technology. And the first thing that people look in someone's portfolio or curriculum now is the amount and the proficiency in softwares that people have. So when you met an architect of 80s and when you meet an architect of 2025, do you see a difference in their design thinking or their caliber with respect to design approach?
Yes, there is a difference. It's a difference in the approach, but not a difference in a substantial, say, value. Because, for instance, if you talk about the 80s, and obviously the first thing is to see how they design. But it's the content of design that counts. Not the way you draw. Also because we needed to subdivide people that are creative, and people that are able to bring this creativeness into a visual element, and somebody that at the end create the final drawing. So there are different contributions. Obviously, let's say the most attractive, most valuable is creativity, but the creativity of the 80s and 90s and 2025 doesn't change, So if the people they have inside, they should express it. What I want to say is that nowadays, more and more, and you know that because we work together, more and more, that our work is a teamwork. And so you have to give a proper value to every contribution.
Correct.
So even if somebody is not creative, but is somebody that is giving to the project, his contribution in attention to detail, attention to proportion, attention to the material, attention to the construction, ideal, let's say, construction system. All these elements are part of the machine, So you cannot take out part of this, because maybe you can be a super creative, you do a lot of sketches or pictures of 3D, whatever, and then if you don't have somebody that goes into details, cannot do anything. So today, if I can say something to young people, the most important thing is to be able to work in a team. Second point, to me, architecture is not, try to listen to me in a proper way, is not anymore the target. The target to create a life, how can I say, a livable space, different scale, the city, the quarter, the building, livable space where you need contribution of other people, like social experts, like experts in philosophy, in come si dice, statistics. You know the point. You need even the contribution of lawyers. Today our profession is more and more complicated. And so architecture is part of the process, could be ideally the center, but is part of a very complicated kind of machine. And this is very important. If the architects, new architects, they should be able to dialogue with these people. Like when the engineer, that before there was always a fight, architect, engineer, against engineer. Now, the engineer are maybe, also the MEP engineer are fighting against people that are calling you to say, okay, I need in a couple of weeks the tower in Dubai, Why? Because I need to make calculation to be sure that the money is coming back from the investment. So we are involved in something that is really a little bit out of our discipline, preparation.
Okay, I will shift the topic a bit now. So, Italian architecture has been known worldwide to have a rich history and culture. It is also related to art. And this is the land of Leonardo da Vinci, everyone knows that. So, coming from such a rich history, does it have an impact on your thinking, your design philosophy?
I think it has a lot of influence. That doesn't mean that Italians are better than other, but we have our own
Yeah.
approach because of what you said before, we are coming from, let's call it, I don't know, history, let's say. I don't want to say civilizations. History that
Yeah.
at least 3,500 years ago. You are coming from 5,000 years of history too, So if you think Italy, Middle East, India, China, they share, thousands of years.
Yeah.
Or maybe they compare, thousands of years of history, about art, about material, about the use of material, the language, the philosophy and so on. So in Italy we have this approach that I think has a continuity, that is a classical vision of what life is. So something that is looking to in the direction of the time. That's something that should last in the time, should leave something in the time, And so whatever you do should be something that could stay there to tell its story. Maybe later on will be destroyed, I don't know. But this is the approach. And this combined with another one that is more recent, that is linked to put the man again in the center of the vision.
Okay.
That was a renaissance in some way.
Yeah.
But renaissance means that before there was something already like that. That was a classical time,
Yeah.
So that started from the Greek and then came to Rome and so on. So putting the man into the vision, center of the vision, is something that we have to do even today, So in this case, as Italian artists, I believe that we have this opportunity to see the things from different angles, and also there are two elements very important. That is a combination between humanism, so talking about man, his history, his attitude, his desire, whatever, and on the other side, technology.
Yeah.
Because Italy, historically, it is a place that is not rich in terms of materials, And so everything that they did, our ancestors in the past, was about the details, about to use a material in a proper way, about not to waste material, but to make the things in a proper way,
Yeah.
And so if you think, from marble to glass to ceramic to wood, the approach is always the same. Even contemporary material, has been using that kind of, not massive.
Yeah.
Not a comparison, but not to say that we are right and they are wrong. If you go to Germany historically has been involved always in a massive production of big numbers. Here we have less number with new things on board, And it's maybe I can tell you this very funny story, that years and years there was a sort of, let's say, friendly fight, between Italy and Germany, because during the Salone del Mobile, Salone del Mobile about furniture, people were coming to Milano, and every time in Milano they were changing shapes and colors, Every year was something new, use of glass with wood or something. If you went to Germany, everything was almost the same with the little variation, because for them was very important, big industry, big numbers. For us was try to give something new to the people, So it was always this kind of comparison and fight, friendly fight between the two can I say, visions, But being in a little continent like Europe is very helpful.
And do you think the current Italian architecture ecosystem that exists, the new buildings that are coming up, the new style that is going on, it still carries the essence of ancient Italian culture, or it's shifting away now?
Uh, we are talking about architecture in a creative way. So we are not talking about style in terms of something that should be repeated,
Yeah.
because I think that from my point of view, repeating architecture is not repeating a model is not really the thing that we need. Obviously, each of us has his own way to write and to draw, so you can recognize the author of a certain kind of design. But I believe that the best architects are trying to every time to evolve. You have a language, but then this language is every time is reached by something new, because the location is different, the building is different, the content, the functional content is different. So I am really attracted by something that is able to evolve, and I think that the best architects are doing this all over the world. But for sure, the Italians are more attracted by this exercise, to do the job they are asked to do, but to place into this job something new.
Okay.
So I used to say that there is a project into the project, a secret project into the project. So you do a building that is a residential building, but inside that project you try to create something that is not really useful for that specific function, but is useful for making your profession upgraded a little bit, And the client, I believe, at the end, they will appreciate, because they're going to get something that is new, something that is different,
Yeah. I will ask you a very controversial question. What do you believe in? Form follows function, or function follows form, or something else?
This is the famous question.
Yeah.
I think I will never get a proper answer. I believe that to be honest now, the two things are obsolete somehow. We need to find something that could synthesize the two. Because today obviously we need the function. But the function that we are looking now for today are different from the ones that we had before. Because if you think our cities, our cities are made by churches, administrative buildings, residential buildings, office building, hotel building, these categories, each of these categories has its own space, and then you create a relation between it. Now that are functions, beside the how can I say, aesthetic aspect. Now we have to think how to create a different kind of city, a different kind of building. I'm very attracted by this combination of functions, and you saw that, for instance, when we design a hotel, the hotel has a lot of homey touch inside, Like our residential building, they have a lot of what is coming from the hotel, functionally from the hotel. So you have the reception, you have concierge, you have valet parking, you have a delivery space, you have public spaces for young guys gathering together, space for enjoying parties. So the house is becoming more like an hotel. The hotel is pitching something from house design. And so this blending process is really what is interesting to me. Obviously, aesthetic is the instrument also to explain these new needs and new vision. So we cannot separate again. They cannot live one, separate from the other.
From the other, exactly.
But I think is all over the world. It's not only a question of Italian approach. If you think to China, what they have done, they create massive, quarters for residential, purposes, and then millions of people to move from here to there. So you have to create trains. We have to think in a different way. Also because we can work anywhere. You are at home, you can work. You can go on a plane, you can work. You can write, you can draw, you can do everything, whatever you like.
So as an Indian architect myself, I am always curious to curious to know whether there are any existing parallels between Indian architecture and Italian architecture. What do you think?
So I believe there are a lot of elements that are linking the two approaches, let's say, to architecture, and that these elements are coming from history, because you have a very deep history as we have, and you have a lot of how can I say, contaminations because of people and invasion or whatever happened during and we had the same, and besides the dramatic elements of these events, there is also something that is mixing with something that was existing before, and this is something that we have in common, and also I would say also the material that you use is the same material that we use a lot, marble, and the ceramic, and glass, and even bricks, So there is a lot, and also this is what I saw when I went to India: attention to details, because the details make the difference. So you cannot, as an Indian architect, you cannot be satisfied without getting into some details that tell the story to the end. You know what I mean? So this I believe is something very interesting that is in common. Obviously, more than us, you have a huge country, a big number of population, You have to face the dimension of the cities, so this is something really challenging. And in scale, smaller scale, we are the same, because it's a smaller country, but the problem is the same, So I think that the two visions could combine, together. I hope.
Where have you been in India?
Well, I've been in New Delhi, I've been in Mumbai, many different smaller cities. I visited all the famous, historical places. And what is surprising, but that is because I was tourist. Was to discover something super beautiful in the middle of nowhere somehow. And so you just divert from the street and you find a beautiful temple. This is a nice point. In the Indian historical, but also I think contemporary architecture, there is always an attention, an attitude. Several times I found a space where you can, how can I say, somehow meditate. Space where
spiritual.
You feel, scusa, it was not coming to me the right word. A spiritual space that is missing in our architecture today, and I would like to express, in what we're doing. This is very, very important.
It's a very interesting response.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the business aspect of architecture. A lot of young designers aspire to open up their own business, like you aspired at some point. But whether it's pricing, with the pricing from the clients, marketing, or understanding the business details like finances, contracts, legal aspects, how do you think, how difficult is it for a young architect to start a practice?
It is very difficult. It is very difficult, not only in Italy, but it's very difficult over the world because there is a lot of competition. You have to enter into a game where competition is really wild, and to be competitive, you need instruments, to fight this kind of battle, that, as you said, you need to prepare from professional point of view, then you need space, and you need, how can I say, to propose your idea, your business. And this is the reason why I said that it's very important to try to combine in a team. Where somebody, because it's very important, somebody should be able to sell your qualities, and that is strategic, because if you don't have somebody that is able to do that job, you cannot enter in the competition, and then you need somebody that is able to manage what you're doing, so about financial aspect, costing, even traveling,
Yeah.
traveling costs a fortune, so, and then you need to understand geographically where you wanted to enter, and how to, so I think that, as I said before jumping into the business, better to think a little bit, maybe to do some some experiment, some training, some stages, where you see what's happening in a certain office and another office, and where somebody is successful, the other no, complicated or no. You understand when and how some projects they go on or not. What are the problems? Because sometimes the problems are not the design quality, are not the performance from the professional point of view, but is relation with the clients, with the operators, construction company, contractors. We are as artists, we are always in a sort of weak position, because if you think between the professionals, if you have to choose the first, this is just to say something that is funny, but if you have to choose the first guy that professional that you pay is a doctor.
Yeah.
The second maybe is a lawyer, and then maybe you go to the engineer, and then the last one is the architect. Just a little joke, but if you think it's quite, so if you want to start an office, as we are doing too, we don't want to go for a new contract without the legal contribution to our contract, because otherwise we are going to be penalized for sure in the future. So if you want to start a job, try to find a friend of yours that is a lawyer, very good lawyer, specialized in this kind of, and then you have to deal with the bank to say, okay, guys, I want to be an architect, I need to be your help. I think it's a good starting point, because if you believe in yourself, also the people, they could say, this guy is going to do a good job, and maybe we can help him, through.
Okay. It's your choice if you want to share it or not, but during the course of your career, have you committed some kind of mistake that made you realize the importance of these aspects? Like a financial mistake or a legal mistake, which made you realize how important is this?
Well, I did. I'm a human, so I did a lot of mistakes. Many of these mistakes are due to ingenuity, because you believe that when you are young, everything is clean and transparent. You trust people, and so on. And so it happened to me also to do jobs that have not been paid, or they have not been realized because they didn't understand what I wanted to do, or for many reasons, maybe the construction was not managed in a proper way. So I think that at the end you needed to keep your an eye on these aspects, try to avoid mistakes that could be prevented, but at the same time you don't have to lose your, purity, if you have, as I believe young people have in their passion, because if you are really passionate and you are prepared, I think at the end you will have success. Maybe you will not be the new Frank Lloyd Wright, So maybe you are going to be one of the best manager of a design office, That seems to be simple, but it's totally difficult and complicated. So again, architecture is, let's say, is a space. This space could be subdivided in different smaller, specific sections, and they should combine together, as a machine where people should do their job in a proper way. Even the engineers, why don't combine with engineering company? It's very important.
You have had an illustrious career, you have accomplished so much. Where do you see yourself or the studio in the next 5 years, let's say? What's next now?
Next is in your hands. Well, I don't know. It's a very I would like to go ahead. You know, there are a lot of things to do. You know, I would like to give a little contribution. You know, in a new vision of the lifestyle of the future. You know, lifestyle not in terms of fashion, lifestyle in terms of to find ways where what we do, what we create, what we build is sustainable, is practical, is easy to be used. You know, is combining, you know, the different aspects of social life. You know, for instance, I hate the idea of now you know the story of the students' housing. No?
Yeah.
I hate it. Why the students should be, you know, packed into the like chicken, you know, into a small space, you know, where they can be, you know, living in a building where you have different kind of families, and this idea of cutting the social structure in there, you know? Making all guys, you know, I think that in your culture, old people are very important, right?
Yeah.
Like in our, you know. Grandfather, grandmother, they're part of family structure.
Yeah.
Why they should live, you know, far away, where they could be, you know, with a young grandson, you know. Why? That is part of life, you know.
Yeah.
So I hope that this will be a focus for us, you know.
Moving to the last part of our conversation, this is going to be a fun round. It's like a rapid fire round. I will ask you a question and you can't take time to think. The first thought that comes to your mind, you say it out loud. Your favorite city in the world to design?
My favorite city, Milano. Sorry for that. Milano.
One word to describe Italian architecture?
Creative.
Perfect. If not an architect, what would you be?
Today, a sailor. to be free, you know, from agenda, meetings and all this stuff. Sailor.
Okay. A type of project that you would want to do but still have not done?
I would like to design a temple.
Temple.
Yeah.
Perfect.
A temple, not a church. A temple. That could be a church. A temple.
You need to come to India then.
Yeah, yes, for sure. This is what attracted me a lot.
Okay. One architect from the present or past that you would want to collaborate with?
I would like to collaborate with the past. Fammi pensare un secondo. Michelangelo.
Okay.
That is not a real architect, he's an artist. And the present, Frank Gehry.
Frank Gehry. Last question. Coffee or wine, if you had to choose one for your life?
Oh, sorry?
Coffee or wine?
Wine. A little, but wine.
Okay. It was a great honor to have you on my show, Marco.
It has been a pleasure for me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to you. Thank you so much. Thank you.